Welcome to How to Lose the Weight. I'm Holly Toscanini. Let's start with a little confession, shall we? A few years ago, I realized I didn't really trust myself, not in a dramatic rock bottom way, but in a quiet, constant way. Like I'd set an alarm early to journal and then I'd hit snooze, or I'd promise myself I'd rest on Sunday and that I'd say yes to yet another obligation, or I'd vow to make changes only to find myself circling back to the same habits. And each time it felt like breaking a pinky promise with my soul. And I know I'm not alone in that because for so many midlife women, self betrayal has just become a way of surviving. We keep peace, we keep people happy, we keep going, but we stop keeping our word to ourselves. But today we're going to talk about what that does to our confidence, our energy, and our nervous system. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how to rebuild self trust, and not through discipline or guilt or shame, but through compassion, safety, and consistent follow through. See, what I've learned is that we don't break promises to ourselves because we're lazy or indisciplined. We break these promises because on some level, keeping them feels unsafe. Think about it. Saying no to somebody might risk disapproval, and following through on that creative idea you have might mean standing out and being judged. And resting might feel like failure when your worth has always been tied to productivity. Your nervous system learns that self-abandonment keeps you safe, accepted, and in control, and it becomes a strategy for belonging. Now, psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. When your actions don't quite align with your values, your brain feels tension. And to relieve that tension, you either change your behavior or you numb your awareness. Most of us numb, especially for women over 50, because we have spent decades absorbing messages that say, be dependable, be nice, be productive, don't make waves. So every time we try to honor ourselves, that old conditioning flares up like a fire alarm. Listen, you're not flaky, you're not inconsistent. You're a woman whose body's been trained to equate self-abandonment with safety. And now you're learning a new way to live. The consequences of self-betrayal aren't loud. They're quiet. You start saying, I'll try again next week. You start dreaming. You stop dreaming as big because, well, you don't want to disappoint yourself. And you call it being realistic. But what you're really saying is, I just don't trust myself anymore. Every broken promise adds another layer of doubt, and you start to second guess your intuition. You stop believing your own words. But the real tragedy is your body that's keeping track of all of this. And each time you break a promise, your brain releases stress hormones. And those tiny hits of cortisol and adrenaline, well, over time, that chronic tension will build fatigue and anxiety and just a deep sense of disconnection. You tell yourself you're just unmotivated, but it goes deeper than that. Your body doesn't believe you anymore. But the good news is trust can be rebuilt, and not through massive overhauls, but through small, safe, consistent actions. See, when you're rebuilding self-trust, the goal isn't to prove yourself. It's to teach your body that your word is reliable again. So start small. I mean, microscopically small. If you've promised to get healthier, scale it down to 1 glass of water before your coffee. Your brain logs that as success, and success fuels safety. I use a simple framework I call the 3 S's. Simple, specific, somatic. Simple. Choose something that's almost laughably easy to complete today. Specific. Give it a clear boundary. 5 minutes, 1 task, 1 conversation. Somatic. It should feel light in your body, not like pressure. If your chest tightens or your jaw clenches when you think about your goal, that's not alignment. That's anxiety. So start smaller until your body says, okay, we can do that. Because self-trust isn't built through big declarations. It's built through believable promises. You cannot guilt yourself into growth. Shame might work short term, but it destroys trust long term. Why? Because shame tells your nervous system you're not safe with yourself. The amygdala, the part of your brain that detects threat, responds to self-criticism the same way it would respond to someone yelling at you. You literally trigger your own fight or flight response. So instead of beating yourself up, get curious. Ask, what part of me didn't feel safe keeping that promise? Was it the part that feared failure, or was it the part that's exhausted? The part that just needed permission to rest? That's the version of you that needs a little compassion, not correction. So here's a reframe I like to use. I'm not inconsistent, I'm healing from self-abandonment. When you treat yourself as someone worth protecting instead of punishing, your body finally starts to relax and consistency becomes possible. When we break a promise to someone else, we apologize and we repair that relationship. But when we break a promise to ourselves, we usually ignore it or pile on the guilt. So let's change that. Here's a 4-step self-repair sequence. Notice what happened without judgment. I'd say I'd write today, and I didn't. You noticed it. Next, name what you actually needed. I didn't write because I was overwhelmed and I just needed a break. Then nurture the need instead of punishing it. I'm just going to take a breath, I'm going to make some tea, and I'm going to reset. And then recommit with something doable. Okay, I'm going to write 1 sentence before I go to bed. That's repair in action. Last week I told myself I'd record 3 reels before noon. I didn't do any of it. But instead of spiraling, I just took a breath, I made a cup of coffee, and I recorded 1. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it reminded my nervous system that I keep showing up, even imperfectly. And that's what self-trust looks like in practice. Your body, it's like a loyal pet. It only believes what it sees, not what it hears. You can say walk all day long, but until you pick up the leash and take that dog out, it doesn't move. Self-trust sort of works the same way. Your body trusts you when your actions match your intentions. So try this right now. Think of 1 small promise you kept recently. Maybe you drank all your water for the day, or closed your laptop on time, or took a walk instead of scrolling. Now, notice where you feel that in your body. Does your chest expand? Do your shoulders relax? Does your breath deepen? That's self-trust, alive in your nervous system. And the more often you activate that sensation of being alive, the more your body learns we're safe when we act in alignment. And that safety is what gives you courage for bigger leaps later on. Let's anchor this with a nightly ritual I call the 3-2-1 self-trust practice. 3 wins. Write down 3 ways you honored yourself today, big or small. I went for a walk. I said no. I kept my promise to rest. Next, 2 adjustments. Note 2 ways you can make tomorrow easier, not harder. Well, I'm going to lay out my clothes before I go to bed, or I'm going to prep my lunch. Next, 1 promise. Choose 1 small thing you will absolutely keep tomorrow. Something your body believes you can actually do. That's it. Takes 3 minutes. But it rewires your brain to expect success instead of disappointment. If you want accountability, try it for 7 nights and share your reflections with me on Substack or on Instagram. This isn't homework. It's just healing. So if you've spent years breaking promises to yourself, hear me clearly. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're simply healing from a lifetime of self-abandonment. And the way forward isn't through pressure. It's through presence. Remember those pinky promises you used to make as a kid? You didn't need proof. You just needed to mean it. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself now, you're linking pinkies with yourself again. You're saying, I remember you. I'm here now. You can trust me again. And that, my friend, is the beginning of your next chapter. If you're ready to see where you are on your own reinvention journey, whether you're still rebuilding trust, reclaiming confidence, or ready for full expression, take my free 5-minute Midlife Reinvention Quiz at hollytoscanini.com. You'll get a personalized blueprint for showing what stage you're in and how to move forward with calm, intuitive confidence. For more tools, resources, and behind-the-scenes guidance, or whatever else it is that you might need, reply to me here on YouTube, subscribe to my blog on Substack, or reply to me on Instagram. Together, we'll turn self-trust into a daily practice and create a life that finally feels aligned. Thanks for tuning in. If today's episode resonated, subscribe and share it with a friend who's been hard on herself today, because she probably needs it. When women start trusting themselves again, everything changes. Their choices, their energy, their entire lives. And the best part, it starts with 1 small promise. Keep to yourself today.